very, very common with for Giraffe is one of the most common setters. Torkoal, when you see that, you know you're you're in for a Trick Room, but a very slow team. Well, Ryan's team is quite the opposite. It does have some slow options, but a lot of fast Pokemon between Iron Bundle, Roaring Moon, and Gengar, all having really high speeds as well as access to Tailwind. However, it's not unprepared for Trick Room. We see a Moongus that's really solid with Spore, but if you do, as we're seeing here, right, with the Fake Out plus Trick Room combo is really nice because with that, Amoonguss cannot get, Amoonguss cannot use its Spore, but you do have to worry about that Gengar because it does have Taunt. And we do know that Fridruff does not have the Mental Herb, therefore if it gets taunted, it will go and there's nothing to stop that, you know, so that's going to be very interesting. And Hariyama cannot Fake Out Gengar because of those types. So we're getting right into the match. Here we go. Alright, so let's get into it. The leads here are going to be kind of crucial because it's going to depend whether or not the Trick Room or Tailwind on Ryan's side gets up, Trick Room on Abhyu's side. And we're going to see the lead here from Ryan with Gengar and Iron Hands. Really nice lead here against Fridruff and Hariyama. So, I think here, this is a very interesting setup here because there is that possible Trick Room, but like we said, there is Taunt on Gengar. And if you have Taunt on Gengar, it means that you're basically right now have a free Taunt on that Fridruff. You can't fake it out, you can't really do much onto it. I think if you're Abhyu, you cannot go for that Trick Room right away. It is going to just, it's going to get taunted. I mean, that's what I think. A double down on the Gengar might be the right place. That's what I think is solid. And then for the Iron Hands, it's kind of in an interesting spot. It's bulky, which is amazing. However, it doesn't have anything super effective, and it cannot Fake Out thanks to Armor Tail on the draft. So Iron Hands kind of is there to just be bulky and deal chip damage. We're going to see a Terra right off the bat here, and I believe that Terra is going to be the Iron Hands, which is going to Terra to Grass. Now that is a nice Terra because it is no longer you now to score doing a Rage Powder. However, I received Fridruff go Protect. I think that is the right call. You want to definitely focus on getting that Gengar out. There's that taunt that I was talking about. And now that allows Hariyama to go for whatever it wants to on Gengar. Drain Punch coming out on from Iron Hands onto the Hariyama, future versus present, and that is a massive amount of damage. The knockoff does really solid onto Gengar, gets it down to the Focus Sash. But yeah, that Drain Punch doing almost half on Hariyama shows, and then with the burn now, thanks to Guts, it kind of puts it in a tough position. We also know that Iron Hands is faster than Hariyama. That is going to be quite scary. I think here for Jeff still in a tough spot, however, it is a bit better. Now you can hit the Gengar without worrying about the Focus Sash, and you can set up that Trick Room with your Abhyu. But you gotta worry still about the Iron Hands. It did a lot of damage, and because it's got the Assault Vest, so it's really bulky, and there's not really much you can hit it with until you get that Trick Room off. So you still gotta be really crucial at getting that Trick Room off, because there you've got Torkoal, and then you can just Eruption the full way. There's the taunt. Yeah, unfortunately that was gonna happen. Can't really, and you gotta switch out or play around Trick Room. And there's that Shadow Ball gonna knock out the Gengar. Yeah, it's tough here because the good news is you should be, if you're Abhyu, you could pretty easily knock out the Gengar, and the Drain Punch just not gonna knock out the Hariyama, gonna live it with 13 HP and a full power knockoff, no longer resisted thanks to the Terra. Gets rid of that Assault Vest, makes it easier for Fridruff to knock out. And Hariyama gonna go down to the burn. So now it's interesting, you don't have your Trick Room up if you're Abhyu, but you have a few possible options. There is Pokemon like Sylveon that you have, or actually, it's an interesting one because both of those are going to definitely get crippled here. Gambit is going to be in a tough position as fighting. However, Torkoal, you need all of that health for Eruption, and not having that is going to really hurt. We're going to see Iron Bundle come out from Ryan's side, and Abhyu can bring out the oh man, Supreme Overlord going to activate. It's going to be a 1.1 times multiplier, and yeah, I think and this was really tough because Iron Bundle just does so much pressure on both sides. It's really offensive, and then you couple on that pressure from Iron Hands. Both of them are really solid neutral attackers. They can hit quite a bit. Iron Hands easily knocks out Gambit with Drain Punch, which we've seen, and then Bundle is free to hit Fridruff. I don't think Fridruff can really hit too hard. Based on its item, we can kind of assume that it is more of a bulk Fridruff. We're going to see Gambit Trash Jolt to Dark here. Yeah, that's not a surprise. It's going to eliminate that 4 times weakness. Now they're getting 4 times weakness, but still, that's not a ton. But you're also we're gonna see Iron Bundle Protect. That is very wise, but I don't want it to get hit right away. I still think the Iron Hands is just so powerful. Sucker Punch, Terra Dark Sucker Punch on Iron Hands. I don't think it's not gonna be a KO. Iron Hands is just so physically bulky that that's not gonna happen. And the Shadow Ball gonna connect with the Iron Hands though. Interesting that they knew the Fridge Drop is faster. It was a very smart play there. And that Iron Hand, we kind of saw it on the last turn with the Gengar, but using that to the advantage, not focusing on the bundle. Still, I think I was in a really solid position. But Ryan, with that bundle, now that the Iron Hand is gone, that bundle is a lot less scary because the combo damage is really what there. But Roaring Moon coming out, again, we're seeing the really fast Pokemon here. Those are Ryan's last 2 Pokemon. I think, yeah, now the Gambit just became an issue because in this case, with Iron Bundle, like I was saying, partnering it with Gambit can knock out pretty much anything. But when you lose your partnering Iron Bundle with Iron Hands can knock out a lot. But now that you lost your fighting type, that makes it tough because you don't really have Bundle can't really do too much. We know that this King Gambit is really bulky, and with the Terra Dark, there's not much on the opposing side that can hit it. At least it's going to be neutral, and you really kind of have to hope at this point that you hit a special attack. You see that's not Assault Vest. Gambit does have a lower special attack, so you kind of have to focus on that. Fridra, not much of a threat. It cannot Trick Room yet, so with Hyper Voice, it doesn't. We're gonna see there's that Sucker Punch onto Iron Bundle, doesn't quite pick up the knockout, but Gambit, once again, being a crazy threat. Freeze Dry coming out onto the King Gambit. Yeah, Ryan knew what he was doing, but he's gonna lose his bundle in the process here. Oof, it's gonna be an yeah, this is a tough one. Acrobatics gonna pick up the knockout on Gambit, and now Fridra gets a free attack here. Gonna be nice for Fridra. It's still a close matchup. I think, oh man, it's really gonna be a tough one here. Shadow Ball onto the Dark type. I mean, yeah, there's not much damage you can do there. But Fridra now loses that taunt, so they're just doing a threat. Abhyu's in a really good position right now, because there's 2 things, right? There's Roaring Moon, which we know has Throat Chop, so it can definitely knock out the Fridra. Fridra can't really Terra. Then you get, but then you're gonna get Eruptioned heavily. However, if you don't target the Fridra, the Torkoal gets a free Specs Eruption on you. That's gonna do massive damage, even if you resist it, which Roaring Moon does. If you target the Torkoal though, you get Trick Room, and after that, you get spammed with Hyper Voice. So right now, Abhyu's in a really good position. Yeah, I think losing that Iron Hands, there wasn't really much you could have done. Throat Chop does pick up the knockout for draft, so it's gonna come down to this Eruption, most likely Eruption at least. A Flamethrower, okay, gonna not risk it, but yeah, Eruption would have done more. Ugh, I think that if that Eruption may have been that would have done twice as much, but then I think it would have come down to the Throat Chop here. Yeah, that I think as long as it does less than 50, it probably would have better. But I think Flamethrower is still gonna come out. It's gonna be a roll. It's gonna be how much Throat Chop does in a roll. It's gonna be really close. A Throat Chop, 16% live there. I think just because of that, Abhyu played it very smartly, knowing that Trick Room was most likely not gonna get up on that match, and keeping that Torkoal for the back was really smart. Targeting, double downing on the Iron Hands. Noticing that your Fridra is faster than Iron Hands, which isn't too uncommon, but it depends on if you're using like minimum speed for a giraffe or not. I think I've known that Fridra is varying in speed. A lot of people run a little speed investment just in case, and worked here. It looked really solid, and knowing that now you kind of that pressure on Iron Hands is really nice. I think for leads for the next one, he kind of knew what he was doing here with that combo Hariyama for a draft. Even though you knew that you probably weren't going to get that Trick Room up thanks to Taunt, it worked, and we saw that because you were able to knock out the 2 Pokemon on the other side. I think Ryan kind of learned here. I honestly don't know if that Terra de Grass really was useful. It didn't really do much. I think that saving the Terra for later would be nice. Yeah, like maybe I think also getting rid of the Gambit and not having when we did see that Gambit took it had to take 2 turns to get knocked out. I think that could have really swayed things Ryan's favor if they just went for maybe a Water on Bundle Hydro Pump. That would have more of a deciding factor. So I think maybe that Terra on, that Terra to Grass just didn't really work. I mean, especially because when you look at the Pokemon that are on the other side, there's not much. At that point, Fridra did not have Psychic on Hyper Ball. Not much that I could have done. So I think that may have been a deciding factor, because then once you were able to get that Terra, and then you got to get rid of that Gambit in one hit, it would have been Roaring Moon versus Torkoal one-on-one without having to waste the turn on that first draft, and that I think was what really decided this matchup, is just the bulk on first draft. Able to survive for as long as it did without being hit was really impressive. So yeah, I think also here, I wouldn't lead up. I think Iron Hands, we saw it was a huge threat to so much. I mean, Gambit, Torkoal, because he got Drain Punch, it hit really well on those two, and those two will most likely not lead together right away. You're always going to have to trick them up, because then you have like threats like Roaring Moon and Arcanine with we can knock out Gambit. Yeah, we're seeing Iron Hands and Roaring Moon though. That's an interesting strategy. I think seeing the Iron Hands for the back for that Gambit, because once we saw that go down, there wasn't much to hit that Gambit. Photosynthesis from Roaring Moon coming out with the attack boost, not the speed boost. Yeah, this is a bit of a better lead, because Roaring Moon does threaten for a draft, but and Iron Hands can do 50% on Hariyama. I think that's pretty much what we're going to see here from Ryan, going for that just standard throat chop. But then again, you have Protect and Terra Normal, so you may be able to live that even with the attack boost. It's rationalized. Fake Out coming out from Iron Hands, but Armor Tail can play there, so that's not going to do anything. Throat Chop going to go onto that Protected for a draft. That's not going to do anything either. And Abhyu gets a free hit here with this Hariyama. The close combat onto that Roaring Moon. Yeah, I was actually surprised to see Roaring Moon not go for it. But I thought obviously go for the quick draft, but forgot about that Fake Out from Iron Hands. The Armor Tail running that Fake Out. I think maybe the right strategy would have been to go Terra Flying just to prolong, because there's not much anything for draft that Hariyama can do to knock out Terra Flying Roaring Moon. Knock off of your best bet, but that's going to be one. Gengar coming in, it's a good choice because Gengar can go for the taunt on for a draft. You don't get that trigger up, but now you're down on your Roaring Moon, which will really kind of save you in the back. Iron Hands does win on a matchup against Hariyama, but maybe not anymore after the burn. That may be the deciding factor. Gengar in a tough spot because it can taunt on Furger, but then it can't really do much. It does have its two stab moves, but pretty sure that at the end of the day, Hariyama is going to be at least take a hit, one of those, and you can just return it with a knockoff. You're going to see Gambit come on in instead of that Furger draft. I think that's a smart play because that taunt comes out, it's onto the Gambit, and he now just loses access to Protect. Just 3 main attacking moves. Wild Card to set a Drain Punch on the Hariyama. It's not going to do enough. And with that, Hariyama's free to just hit. Knock off that Gengar, yeah. I mean, in that case, it was one of those things where, like, Hariyama knew probably you're not going to get hit by both. There's a good, and Mercy Hariyama's knockoff. You're not going to get hit by both. You're not going to get a double down on the Hariyama. They're probably going to taunt to be safe. And then in that case, Hariyama knows it can take a hit from an Iron Hand, as we saw. And that was pretty much it. Right now, I think with Gambit in play, you obviously have Iron Hands. Scary, the Drain Punch, but Terrastar in the Dark will definitely help against that 4 times fighting weakness. Yeah, Abhyu's in a really good spot because if you can get, especially if you can get rid of that Gengar, then you remove the taunt threat and you can just Trick Room without a huge target on your back. You know, there's not much you can do. You remove the Roaring Moon right away, which means you're not going to be able to get hit by a Dark move, and we're getting rid of the Gengar, and that's going to remove the taunt. So that leaves with this Arcanine and Bundle. You have all of those in play. None of those are going to really knock that off in one turn. You're going to have to double down on the Fridge Draft, which then allows you most likely Gambit will live even with a Drain Punch. Sucker Punch is going to go for the but if your Gambit and Fridge Draft are in play, it allows one to do super effective damage, or you get your triple. Great spot. Yeah. Brian's going to go ahead and lose that Gengar thanks to Sucker Punch from Gambit. Drain Punch going to connect, and like I said, Gambit's going to go ahead and live that. Iron Hand going to go back up to full health, however. It's a little more threatening, and does not have that Terra de Grass, so it is going to not take... Oh, that close combat is about 70%. Thanks to that burn from Hariyama. But yeah, like I said, with... Now it is possibly in Sucker Punch range. In the last match, it did have that Grass Terra, so it was neutral, not resisted. But with the fighting type now still in play, the Sucker Punch is going to be resistant. And Hariyama hanging on with 4 HP. Iron Bundle coming out. Now, this puts you in an interesting spot with your Abhyu. I mean, I still think he's in the right spot considering these are the last 2 Pokemon. And Bundle, like I said, needs kind of a partner. It's really good for chip damage because we do like 50% on a lot with Hydro Pump. But you need a partner for it to help knock it out. And if, with these two being the last two, and the Sucker Punch potential, which Terra Dark Sucker Punch potential onto that Iron Hands, which is really most likely going to knock it out. You kind of have to just rely on bundle and play smart. Which one do you hit? Which one time do you protect? We're gonna see it protect right away for it. I think we're gonna see this Sucker Wide Guard from Hariyama first. Smart. I don't know if I would have seen an Iron or Icy Wind. I think the Sucker Punch play here on Iron Hands is kind of standard. It's kind of what you have to do to help it knocks out, and it definitely does. I think that Terra Dark was just really nice there. It definitely helped out get that damage boost from Sucker Punch. But really the star of the show here was that Hariyama getting that close combat onto it with the burn and then living another turn as well. Just for show. Now it's at this point that Wide Guard was really smart in case you did get Icy Wind, but now just come in with that and finish. And yeah, and I mean you get Sucker Punch and then you set up the Trick Room. You can't 2 Sucker Punches will knock out. Trick Room plus a Sucker Punch will allow you to knock it out on the next turn. There's not much to do here, or you can do that with. I mean that's smart because you just gotta get your Trick Room up, and you kind of know at this point Bundle's not gonna knock out my bird death. I'm safe. I can set this up pretty freeze dry going on to Gambit slot as he's protected. This is smart. I mean at this point you could have Sucker Punch too. Both are solid options. Just gotta get that up because once the Trick Room's up, it's a this one bundle versus 3 of Abhyu's mons is gonna just struggle. Sucker Punch probably gonna do that, partner it with Shadow Ball, Shadow Ball, Hyper Voice. Sucker Punch is gonna. Oh, it looks like though. So bundle is not gonna go for that attack. It's gonna not go for attack. It's gonna go for Encore, which it's gonna Encore into Sucker Punch. I don't think that was a good call, honestly, because Sucker Punch. At this point, you're stall protect. I mean, it's good. Like that's what it's a good call, but like it's not gonna necessarily work out, because you kind of have to stall this Trick Room, and either you're gonna take hits from now a stab plus Terra Sucker Punch, or you can protect a couple turns and then take Hyper Voices. So it's not necessarily. Yeah, and there's the Sucker Punch. I mean, it was a solid strategy to maybe stall the Trick Room, but we knew that Sucker Punch was going to KO anyway, so you kind of just had to wait until that Trick Room finished, and at the end of that, like, even if the Trick Room finished, you still have Sucker Punch for just priority, so you kind of are in a tough spot, and we saw that there. Yeah, I think the Encore is probably going to go onto the Protect, but the Sucker Punch, it really saved it there, and Abhyu's going to pick up both games there, and the win of the match. So, yeah, that was an interesting one. I think what we saw here, and yeah, they're signing that match slip to confirm it, but I think what we saw here is just Abhyu's ability to spot out what threatens Trick Room, and that really helps because you got rid of the Gengar right away, got rid of the Roaring Moon right away, and after that you're free to basically sweep with whatever Trick Room you have. And I think what was awesome too is Hariyama was a key player here for Abhyu's team, because had the close combat for the Roaring Moon, had the knockoff for the Gengar, and then after that it was pretty much like, okay, I know what to do now. I have my way to set up Trick Room. I can set it up now, and that was it. And I think it was really interesting that Hariyama, you know, we see Iron Hands a lot. It's become the more popular variant, but it shows that Hariyama still has a lot of use with its 2 coverage moves, with knockoff, close combat, and then also you have fake out, which is always useful. So really good match there, and we're gonna see Abhyu later in the day, maybe possibly return to the top 8. Like I said last time, he was in the top 8, so if he returns there, and we'll be back in just a few moments with another match while everyone's finishing up. Looks like everyone's still playing, so we'll see you then.